to the airport. Eden, 17 minutes delay Cook to the junction, outbound 15. Inbound Eisenhower, delays start at Mannheim. It's about 41 minutes, 390 to downtown, outbound just 30. Stevenson, 39 minutes, 355 to Lakeshore Drive. The Ryan, 24 minutes, 95 to downtown. I-57, Bishop Ford, much lighter than usual. Northbound Tri-State, it's tight from the Hinsdale Oasis, 47th, and from the Reagan Tollway to the Eisenhower. Other tollways are light. I'm Jim Palamonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next in our 1-hour heating and air conditioning weather center. Here's Gregory Patrick.
Plenty of sunshine for today, rather breezy with a high 49. A few clouds around tonight with a low 32. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy and chilly with times of snow and rain during the afternoon with little or no accumulation and a high 40. I'm Gregory Patrick on AM 560, The Answer.
36 at O'Hare, 37 Lakefront. Next news, 7:30. Breaking news as it happens, and Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM.
To Peggy Noonan, I give you C.S. Lewis. His present-day application knows no bounds, C.S. Lewis. From the passage I'm about to read from his On Living in the Atomic Era, just replace coronavirus with atomic bomb, or replace atomic bomb with coronavirus more aptly, and think about the timeliness, even though this is from 72 years ago, of our current predicament with the coronavirus. In one way, we think a great deal too much of the atomic bomb.
Coronavirus.
How are we to live in an atomic age? I'm tempted to reply, why, as you would have lived in the 16th century when the plague visited London almost every year? Or as you would have lived in a Viking age when raiders from Scandinavia might land and cut your throat any night? Or indeed, as you are already living in an age of cancer, an age of syphilis, an age of paralysis, an age of air raids, an age of railway accidents, an age of motor accidents? In other words, do not let us begin by exaggerating the novelty of our situation. Believe me, dear sir or madam, you and all whom you love were already sentenced to death before the atomic bomb was invented. And quite a high percentage of us were going to die in unpleasant ways. We had indeed one very great advantage over our ancestors, anesthetics. But we have that still. It is perfectly ridiculous to go about whimpering and drawing long faces because the scientists have added one more chance of painful and premature death to a world which already bristled with such chances, and in which death itself was not a chance at all, but a certainty. This is the first point to be made, and the first action to be taken is to pull ourselves together. If we're going to be destroyed by an atomic bomb, let that bomb, when it comes, find us doing sensible and human things. Praying, working, teaching, reading, listening to music, bathing the children, playing tennis, chatting to our friends over a pint and a game of darts. Not huddled together like frightened sheep thinking about bombs. They may break our bodies, a microbe can do that, but they need not dominate our minds. So you choose. Peggy Noonan and the hysterics, including those that wear suits and occupy cable news TV desks or who hold public offices, or C.S. Lewis. For regular folk, how do you want to live? For more on this topic, including an interview he got with AOC, which
she
was
crossed enemy lines, first time ever at Fox News Channel.
Quite breathtaking. Well, she calls them enemy lines, but they don't. It just says something more about her than it does Fox News. One of those guys in a suit on a cable news desk that I was not talking about, a common sense realist, Bret Baier, Fox News anchor, host of Special Report, 5 p.m. Chicago time, and author of 3 Days at the Brink, FDR's Daring Gamble to Win World War II. Bret, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
Morning. So start with the politics of coronavirus before we get to your back and forth with AOC. The aid package being debated on the Hill today, going to move, according to Nancy Pelosi, one way or another. But there's some real discrepancy between what McConnell thinks should be included and what House Democrats do.
Yeah, I think they'll get there. This is one of those things that the just push of the moment will get them over the finish line, no matter how much it costs. And that's always the scary part in Washington. When you have consensus that something big has to be done, but there's not a price tag, it's like a giant piece of steak in a lion's den as far as, budgeting. And the CBO, Congressional Budget Office, is not going to score this before they vote on it. And so we're looking at, no matter what happens, it'll be a ton of money after the $8 billion that's already been put in for this effort. This will be on the economic side, obviously, and will include a lot of things. And while needed, there won't be any check on how much or whether it's too much.
Although there was this report that Pelosi was pushing to include a Hyde Amendment loophole in the stimulus plan, or bailout is probably a better word, more accurate word at least, not a politician's word. If she does something like that, then she could trip up this process, because that will not go unchallenged.
No, it won't. And that's one of the things about having a Republican Senate, or vice versa. If the other party has a check on that, even in the pressure of getting something done quickly. It was interesting that Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said the opposite, that it was Republicans trying to put in abortion language, which I don't think was accurate yesterday.
Well, she said a lot of things that call into question accuracy. One of the other things she said in your query of her about the Michigan primary and why Bernie was unable to repeat his performance of 2016, she blamed it on voter suppression. This sounds like very much like Nancy Pelosi complaining about misogyny in the Democratic primary electorate as the reason Elizabeth Warren didn't do better. Well, who's suppressing Democrat primary voters in a Democrat primary in Michigan?
Right. And which is why I asked her again. Let me just be clear what you're saying here. She then later clarified on Twitter that she wasn't saying that he lost because of that, but that there was voter suppression and that it's a problem. I think more of a problem is the articulation by Bernie Sanders that the progressive ideology is winning when he's not winning. And Biden is not saying the same things that Bernie is saying. So I think that is a kind of a missing link there and how they talk about progressivism.
And what is Sunday's debate going to look like, do you expect? It just seems to me that Bernie is unwilling to do the things he needs to do to change the trajectory of the race, go after Biden with respect to questions about his mental acuity, go after Biden with respect to some of the Peter Schweitzer details about at least perceived self-dealing to family members, leveraging his office as vice president. He just wants to continue to rinse and repeat that socialism ain't bad.
I think, you're largely right. I mean, having talked to him a few times, I think he is in the pull the punches kind of mindset. I'm only fighting on the 30,000-foot big policy differences. Obviously Joe Biden is going to face those kind of questions going forward in a general election if he's the nominee. I think this debate is going to be interesting, but not like that interesting.
I want to go back to Wednesday night's President Trump's Oval Office speech, where he seemed to have some mixed messages, especially about this travel ban that takes effect at midnight tonight. So the European travel ban has nothing to do with Americans who are overseas trying to get home. Because I don't know if you know, people in the UK yesterday on Delta, one guy spent almost $20,000 to get one of the last seats back to the United States. So what is it? And what about trade and cargo?
Yeah. It was a major mistake,
Yes.
and I don't understand how it gets through the vetting process. By all accounts, the speech writing started at 5 p.m. and essentially was Jared Kushner and Stephen Miller. But it needed, and while taking advice from the health experts, it needed to be through a system on a speech like that, so significant from the Oval Office, which carries its own weight, to not have it vetted. There were left a lot of questions. You mentioned the details about American citizens not being a part of the you can't come home after Friday sort of thing.
They can come home, right?
The cargo and the trade is a huge issue because it affected futures on the markets. He clarified it on Twitter, but it did not sink in around the world. They went by the words that he said from the Oval Office. And then what health insurance companies are willing to pay for everything, including treatment, with no deductibles, is not where they were. And they said they would pay for test kits, which are not available, and he didn't talk about. So I agree that the speech was lacking in substance and opened the door for his critics.
Yeah, the lack of specificity, you're right. I think it needed to be, essentially a State of the Union address, but not moving through a lot of topics, moving in detail through this topic. And it was more sort of top line, like a module of a State of the Union address rather than those details.
Yeah.
He wasn't even
it had
personable.
The right tone.
Yeah. Well, I know, but he
It had
wasn't
the
like,
right
I
tone.
know we're
it's
going
true.
through some hard times right now. Nothing compassionate, nothing like, these are uncharted territory for all of us.
Yeah.
And things are going to have to change.
I know.
We're all going to have to
empathy-
suffer consequences. We're all going to have to make changes to our life when it comes to, whether it's sports or the arts or the theater or even being self-quarantined. Like, do the American thing and help us out.
Empathy is not a thing that is just easy for this president in a speech. I think in our town hall, he expressed it a lot better, in a different format. But it's not his usual MO. His MO is to fight and to counterpunch, and it's just not a good fit to do an Oval Office speech like that. And I think they realize that now, and they're trying to clean it up. But it was a big moment.
Yeah. With just going back to the president's perspective on this, he's again trying to put at least still notes of optimism on the situation at current. And he's being received well in some quarters, some unusual quarters. De Blasio agreeing with the travel restrictions with respect to the EU. Gavin Newsom saying good things about the communication between him and his office and the administration with respect to that cruise ship off the coast of San Francisco. But then even from the public health officials who are roundly respected, like Tony Fauci, you're getting a bit of a muddle, too. We're not where we need to be with testing. We're not set up as a country to do what some of these other countries have done in terms of moving the test kits as quickly as other countries have. But by the same token, we're putting too much emphasis on testing, said Tony Fauci as well.
Yeah, it's a mixed message. I think the testing thing is a big issue.
Yeah.
The governors still don't have the test. The CDC is not doing numbers anywhere near what they need to be doing. I mean, if we were positioned like South Korea and we were able to test large swaths of America, some of this stuff wouldn't be happening. Some of the stuff, the shutdowns, the NBA could test all their players and they could play without a fan base, and they could still be on TV, and there would be some calming factor to that. Right. The PGA could continue on, test all the players and play, and there would be something. But because of the uncertainty, there's fear, and fear leads to decisions that you might as well do this instead of risking putting people in danger.
What about this as a way of have a calming effect, Brett? You and I will play as scabs in the Masters. And then we'll get some of our friends as well. What about that? Just, for the nation. We'll play Augusta for 4 days for the nation.
Listen, I'm fine going down to TPC Sawgrass today. They've got openings, I think.
So why don't we just have the Bret Baier, Dan Proft challenge, you two one-on-one?
Yeah.
And we can turn it into a media event because there's nothing for those in Vegas to bet on right now. If you've ever thought about quitting gambling, now's the perfect time.
Yeah,
we don't even have middle school sports.
Be like Tiger and Phil, although I can't play for Bret Baier stakes. We got to ratchet down the stakes a little bit. Bret Baier, Fox News anchor, special report, 5 p.m. Chicago Times during the week. Also the best-selling author of 3 Days at the Brink, FDR's Daring Gamble to Win World War II. Brett, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Stay healthy, all right?
Yeah, you too.
We'll see you.
Take care.
Thanks, Brett. You're the best. He joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
The following is a paid political announcement. In the fight to defeat DC swamp creature Dick Durbin, Mark Curran is the right choice. As sheriff, Mark Curran lowered crime, was under budget every year he served, and was one of the first sheriffs in Illinois to support concealed carry. Mark Curran will work with President Trump to protect our nation from dangerous criminals, just like he did when he served as a county, state, and federal prosecutor. While other candidates talk about their conservative principles, Mark Curran has proven his. Mark Curran is the only candidate with endorsements from pro-life groups like Illinois Family Action PAC, the Illinois Federation for Right to Life PAC, and Family PAC. Former Sheriff David Clark and Medal of Honor recipient Alan J. Lynch know that Mark Curran is the best candidate to look out for veterans and first responders. Mark Curran is endorsed by the Chicago Tribune, the Sun-Times, and the Daily Herald because they know Mark Curran is the only candidate who can defeat D.C. swamp creature Dick Durbin. On March 17th, when you vote for President Trump, make sure to vote for Mark Curran for U.S. Senate.
I'm Mark Curran, and I approve this message.
Oh, everybody's worried about staying healthy, not getting the cold. God forbid you get the flu. So you know what you can do to stay healthy besides washing your hands and singing happy birthday twice? You can boost your immune system. And doctors say do that by getting enough sleep, exercise, and eating properly. And that means getting enough fruits and veggies, which I know